The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in. You're giving veterans a voice today. Powered by WorkSimple, where we simplify your mission.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Lock in every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, for Tracer Rounds targeting veteran resources.
You wonder why life feels like chaos, like Tracer Rounds flying all around you? That's why I created the Tracer Rounds podcast. Every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, I help cut through the noise and point veterans to the resources they need. Since 2023, join me.
To hear interviews with veteran artists, veteran business owners, and businesses that support veterans. Catch us on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and MB Radio. If you miss a show, you can listen again on Wreaths Across America Radio every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Tune in to see if you are on target. MBR, giving veterans a voice.
And welcome back to the Tracer Rounds podcast. I'm Terry, your host, and with me, and you're on Military Broadcast Radio. And we've our guest, our veteran guest tonight is Marvin D. Glover. Welcome, Marvin.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's great to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I know you're an Army veteran. Can you tell us a little bit about your service, maybe about how many years, when you joined, why you joined, that type of thing?
Sure. So I'm an Army veteran, actually 3 years in the regular service, and then I came home back to Louisiana and did 5 years in the National Guard. And my way of getting to the Army was through scholarship. I actually had an academic scholarship at Alcorn State in Mississippi, and unfortunately Marvin didn't take care of his business, so I had to find other ways to take care of schooling. And so I ended up going in the Army, getting the Army college fund and everything. Did 3 years at Fort Ord in Fort Ord, California, right there along the beach near Monterey, California. And actually, Clint Eastwood was the mayor of Monterey at the time when I was serving there. Yeah. And so after the 3 years, I came back home, attended school at LSU. And did the National Guard. The great thing here in Louisiana is that our National Guard takes care of all of your tuition and everything. So we give them, we give them 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summertime where we do our main drill during that time, and they pretty much covered all the schooling. So I had my Army college fund money. Also had money from the National Guard, so all I had to do was focus on taking care of what I needed to do as far as school is concerned.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's a pretty sweet deal.
Oh, definitely. I would encourage anybody to do it. I've often talked to young men that didn't know what their next move was going to be. I say, well, look, let me tell you about something. How about you give Uncle Sam 2-3 years? I think it's a minimum of 3 now. And see if you like it. If not, get all the benefits that they have to offer.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what did you study in school at LSU?
At LSU, I started off as a psych major, and then I moved into business management.
What was driving you to be a psych major?
I just wanted to find out the makeup of people, what really drove people to do certain things, what kind of pushed them, or what were the drivers within a person, where you can take a kid that can be in a not so well situation and they would go off and go to school and excel. Then you may have a kid that had everything you can ask for, a silver spoon, and they still wouldn't do right. And so I always wondered what was in the makeup of an individual to make them really grow or not grow. What things really push them, what things really motivate them, which things really set them forward. And I guess because of that love of psychology and wanting to understand people really helped me with pushing everything with my book, The 3 Ps of People Development.
It sure sounds like it. So when you finished your degree, then what did you do with that degree? Because it sounded from your bio that I read that you have a lot of your feet in a lot of fires or a lot of interests.
Definitely that. The way it kind of went was my wife was in law school at the time, and we started building our family. So with kids coming along and everything, we had to have income and we had to have insurance.
Right.
So I told one of my buddies, I said, that's when I learned that I had to go find a real job. So I started running restaurants and everything. And so got into that. And more so because of my MOS when I was in the service. I was a 94 Bravo, which was a food service specialist. And so I understood all the ins and outs of food, operation of food, and it really just helped it grow. I thought I was just going to use that background to have something to get through college, and then I was going to go off into my quote unquote into my field. Uh,
Right.
Never imagined that it would go into a career that I could actually grow with it and learn from it as well. From being what we called each other a spoon or army cook to actually moving up the ranks to where you're talking about being a multi-level unit manager and anything like that.
Right. So tell us what other businesses developed from you going to this business school, because I know that you had your hands in some other businesses besides just the food service industry. You were doing other things. Can you tell us what other things you were doing with what you learned?
Oh, definitely. Oh, so while I was in school, back then there was a print and copy place called Kinko's. And Kinko's eventually became FedEx Kinko's, and then it moved on and became FedEx Office. So being there, I would be at Kinko's at night, running their operations at night, and then I would leave from there and go to school during the day. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, awesome. Awesome as far as knowledge, the things I learned, the connections that I made while I was there. I met tons of business people. You met people from all genres, all walks of life, and everything. And so it really helped you develop how to deal with individuals. More so, even with my background in the military, you have people coming from everywhere, and all of a sudden, you guys are all together in a barracks, and then you got to come together and work together and make things happen. You learn to appreciate their background, where they're from, as well as giving them an idea of what you're about and where you're from. So, working there at Kinko's, it allowed me to deal with all type of business people and things like that. And I also learned about print production. One of the biggest things we dealt with while I was at Kinko's was when Katrina came through in New Orleans, and so we were direct support for Red Cross. So Red
oh,
Cross
wow.
would come in and they would say, we need 50,000 copies of this. We need 40,000 copies of that. We need 120 copies of this. And so you're talking about machines that were running 24/7, basically nonstop, because they couldn't get anything from any of the Kinko's or FedEx offices that were in New Orleans because everything was underwater and
Right.
Baton Rouge was the next closest place. So we were in there getting things done. You talking about going from working maybe an eight hour shift to a lot of 12 and 16-hour shifts that we had to run during that time. But
Wow.
yeah, for a couple of guys that were ex-military that were working there, we understood the mission. So we understood that, hey, we got to come together to get this done because it has to be done. It's no, well, maybe we could do it later or we're not going to worry about it. It has to get done right now. And so you would be amazed the amount of things that we actually copied and got done during that time. We got all kind of recognition from FedEx and everything behind it. But it was amazing how everyone was coming together, getting it done. But the volume that really blew me away. You know, I would walk in for that overnight shift, and I would get there, and they would say, "Well, look, we need 150 of these. We need these section off in sets of 25,000. We're shipping this to this part, and we got these going here." And you just get organized and get things done and start coordinating and making sure everything's taken care of.
Wow. Who knew? I mean, you would never have thought you were going to be responsible for printing things for FEMA or whatever agency, Red Cross, whoever was coming in to, make a difference in the area when Katrina came through. I was in Denton when Katrina happened, working at the FEMA Region 6 headquarters there for Katrina. But yeah, I wasn't on the ground there. I was in the ground on Baton Rouge when Gustav came ashore.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know a little bit about that. So I know that's crazy times, and 12-hour shifts are the real deal. I mean, that's what it takes. It was funny because military workers for FEMA, because the unit I was a part of was the DoD response in FEMA. So anything FEMA needed DoD, we were the belly button to push to get that. So we were used to working 12-hour shifts. So there would be, a day shift working 12 and then a night shift working 12. So we just relieve it, one another, just, back to back shifts. But the civilian workers that were there, they're like, no, it's overtime now. I got to go home. It's 8 hours. Nope. I'm not working anymore. Like, nope, it's overtime if you're wanting me to stay. So I totally
Exactly.
get, the military gets the mission. It's like, nope, we're staying until the job's done or till the judge shows
Exactly.
up. So
Yeah, many a times I would have my shift was supposed to be over at 8 and I'll be walking out of there at 10 or 11 o'clock because it's like it had to be done. We have to finish the mission.
exactly.
But the great thing is that Kinko's taught me so much with print and design and being creative that it allowed me to branch off myself and create Excel, or as we call it now, EPD, Creative Suite, where we can help local people, local business people, or even a regular customer where someone just needs a banner done for graduation or birthday party or something like that. It really started off where I was helping out a friend with a real estate agency, and we created her logo, started creating a business card, magnets for vehicles, and then another real estate agent found out. Then another one found out, and it just kept growing from there. And next thing you know, we have a full-fledged print business that we're able to operate and take care of individuals. And then I had a high school classmate that actually ran for chief of police in my city. And he came to me one day and he said, "Man, you did great on the banners, you did great on the push cards, but I got this guy that wants to give me this tractor trailer." And he said, "I could put a banner on it." He said, "But do you think you really can create a banner that's 10 foot by 20 foot?" I said, "We'll get it done." And so he was just so impressed that we were able to get that done. But generally, most of the print companies that were around in the area, they had no clue on how you would get a 10-foot by 20-foot banner done, and we were able to get it done.
That's amazing. Well, it sounds like your military service jump started your progress into your future, to your real job, like you said. Like it really was the stepping stone and just what you needed to get started, to get going in the direction that you were supposed to head. So you went from that. Are you still doing that? Are you still doing the print service as
We
well?
still have the print service that we offer, and we also have GMG Management Group where we do the consulting. It's more of a focus on restaurants because that's my background, dealing with restaurants for so many years. But we also help other businesses with scheduling, project management, and things like that. But I love the consulting because it gives me a chance to go in places that I've never been before. Like if I can go help somebody, help them open up a coffee shop. Well, I've never really ran a coffee shop before, but now I get to go in there, give them my expertise on my past experiences, my knowledge of food costs, putting together the P&L, doing the marketing, but really almost learning as they learn because it's a new area for me. And that's one of the major things with the consulting that's really exciting because now you go from maybe working a project that you've been on for 6 months or a year or two, and you go into a new project. So it never gets stale. It never gets, as they say, the norm. You get to break things up and do something differently.
I think that's amazing that you've started as a food service specialist in the Army, and now
Mhm.
you're consulting for restaurant management or other type of businesses, and you're an author. And you mentioned something. You are the founder of Glover Land Farm. What's that about?
Okay, so what we're doing with that is we're mostly right now is our chickens that we have and everything, but we're looking to do a farm to table farm that we're looking for, and basically to create a local farmers market where people can come in and they can get everything fresh, where they won't be getting anything with pesticides or anything that's with GMO. So everything you're looking at, you're going to come in, you're going to get fresh. You're going to know where it's coming from. It won't be going through several hands before it gets to you. And that's the exciting thing about it. As a kid, I used to visit my grandparents in an area of Livingston Parish called Marpaw. And when you would go down there, you would see land for days. I remember as a kid walking through the rows and everything of my uncle's tomato plants. And we would just basically have little packs of salt in our hand, and we'll pull the tomato straight from the vine and have that salt in our hand, and we would dip that tomato in that salt and just eat that. And it was just remembering how fresh that was, how natural it was, and not even thinking that, hey, this is something that's good for us, but it was just so refreshing to have something like that. And so, with coming up with the idea of Gloverland Farms, I wanted to create something that could last for generations for my kids' kids, and everything. But I wanted to create something where we would be able to get produce, where we would be able to get our meat from our chickens, from goats, from hogs, cattle, and everything else as we grow. But the main thing was to have something that's sustainable and right there in front of us that we can go outside almost and put our hands on and say, hey, I want some fresh cucumbers today. I want some fresh okra today. And go right there and pull it ourselves and have it available for us.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's nothing like fresh fruit and vegetables from, raised on the farm. My grandparents also had a huge garden and had fruit trees and that type of thing, and we always had something fresh from, you know, they had a little farm, a little dairy farm actually. They were dairy farmers, and then they had their their garden and their fruit trees, and so they were pretty sustainable. They had a lot of kids, so I think they needed to be thrifty.
Well, during that time, it was great because you had the free labor, so say. So they knew that, hey, if I want to eat, I better get out there and do something on this farm as well. You know, I hear my dad talk about it all the time. He said when he was a kid, they had to get up that morning, knock out whatever chores and different things they had to do on the homeland, go to school, then you come back that evening and go and play or whatever. You had to finish up what else was going on. And most kids, they used to get excited about the summertime, but he said, man, for him, he didn't like the summertime because that mean that those little chores he was doing before school and after school, he was doing that all day.
Oh, well. At least it keeps you out of trouble that way, right?
Exactly, exactly.
My summers were spent on my grandma's farm too, because my mom worked, so we spent summers with grandma, and so we helped pick stuff, and we helped, get the milk in and whatever else she needed, so I understand, it's a good life though. I mean, like, it
Mhm.
keeps you busy and it keeps you, healthy because you're moving around, not sitting around, so that's good.
Exactly.
So at what point did you decide you wanted to write a book?
Actually, I've always thought about it. Always been a big fan of the 1 Minute Manager books. Also, 360 Leader. Those books really helped me off when I really dove into management. I always confide in managers that worked under me that I was a career assistant manager, and they were like, "What you mean?" I was like, "Well, it seemed like for years I never got a break where I could move into becoming a general manager." And so I would study these books and try to see what I can learn to help me grow and move myself up and move up the ranks and everything. And in studying these books and seeing how the books were laid out, how they were practical, where someone can draw knowledge from it, no matter what level, what background they came from. I was like, man, one day I want to write a book, and I want to do a book on about food service management, actually. And thought about it, tossed it around, and so me and my wife would talk about it some, but she was real adamant about it. She would say, "Look, you really have a lot to offer. It would be great if you would just take some time and sit down and start doing the book." Well, in 2024, I decided to run for local city government. And unfortunately, I lost. I didn't win. But at the end of that, I turned in six restaurants that I was supervising. And I said, well, look, I'm going to take this time and really get in the community and do different things in the community. So I ended up being on board for Volunteer Ascension, where we go out, we do different things in the community. We kind of coordinate volunteers for different activities that are going on in our community here in Ascension Parish. So I was on that board and then just chugging along, enjoying life, really not having a whole lot of responsibilities. But the conversation came up again about the book. Uh, Ended up joining with another organization called LOCK, Loving Our Children, Our Community's Children. So I was on this board now. Now I'm on two boards. Next thing you know, I end up joining two other organizations. So I'm on four boards. It starts becoming like it's almost a full-time job. But the conversation still came up about the book again. And so she finally sat me down and she said, look, you know what you want to say. You say it, and I'm going to start putting it together for you. So she would pull out her phone and she would just let me talk every night. We would sit there and we would talk. And she was like, so explain this to me. And she went on, she said, so really explain the three P's to me. I've heard you say the three P's, the three P's, the three P's. Break it down for me, explain it to me. So I would start explaining it to her. And then I would start telling them what praise was about, diving into that, how people use praise to recognize individuals on their team, and how a lot of teams, you can just really grow a person from giving them the right praise, the right constructive criticism, and really develop them from there. And then we move from praise and we move to pay. Usually, if a person is doing well and everything, they want to see compensation. They want to get paid for their efforts. So when you have that in place, the next thing is either you're just going to keep paying a person and not get nothing in return, or you start trying to grow that person, they bring them up to the next level. And so that's when you get into position. And so she was like, okay, so let's go back and let's break it down and just go a little more in depth. And so that's what we did, month after month, until I gave her enough information where she could, excuse me, compile it all together. Me, I'm just thankful that she has the tenacity and the willpower to do it, because she was able to take everything I told her and put it all together and turn it into a nice book. I looked at it several times and I still look at it every day. And I'm astonished that we were able to take all that information from years and years of my experience and put it and compile it and give it to someone. Been getting some great feedback from individuals about it. Actually, one of the first things I was able to do, even before the book was launched, was to get with a former coworker of mine and have a synopsis with a group of his team, about seven managers with Whataburger. Got them together and kind of test out the things that I was saying in the framework, and they were extremely impressed with it. Loved the ideas that I was able to give them, the information. They said it lined up, it made sense. And that's the biggest thing that I was looking for, Terry. I wanted to make sure that I understood what I was saying, but I wanted to make sure they understood everything that I was saying and that it wasn't just going over their head, that I wasn't just taking a whole bunch of stuff and just jumbling it together, putting it together to say, boom, hey, I got a book. I wanted to be a true resource for them, you know.
Definitely. So, how did you come about publishing it? How did you find, because you weren't signed to anybody, so this is what you're
Mhm.
self-publishing. So, how did that come about? I mean, I applaud your wife for really grabbing all those details out of you
Mhm.
to really put this on paper because she just knew you had something important to tell people. So I love
Exactly.
that she just kind of kept at you. She didn't let you lose the sight of that goal. So I love that about your wife and how she helped you with that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, as far as the self-publishing, it really took a lot of research. Uh, and I have to give kudos to her again. Uh, she would say, "Hey, we need to find out what we need to do to publish our book. We need to look at also who do we go through to get the book published. We need to look at what's going to be our price point. We had to gauge ourselves against other books that were out there, and really look at what's our true audience. And that's the type of questions and the things I loved about the way she thinks because she's great at project management and putting things together. She's the better organizer. I'm the doer. So if you tell me go left, I'm gonna go left. You tell me go right, I'm gonna go right. You say knock down the wall, I'm gonna knock down the wall. But she has the ability to process it and look at it and say, okay, when we knock down this wall, what's gonna be the next step that we take? And then once we got this wall knocked down, what are we gonna do with those bricks that we knocked down? And so she
Right.
has the ability to have that foresight as far as that. And so in the whole process, she would give the information to me and say, "Hey, look, I need you to look into this. Tell me what you think." And this is what I found so far. And so she'll get that to me. I'll look at it and I'll dive in and say, "Hey, okay, this is the price point that we want to go for the book. This is the image that we want to have for the book. Who is our target audience? It's definitely people that want to grow. But are we looking for managers? Are we looking for new managers? Are we looking for CEOs? Are we looking for directors? And go that route there. And as we went through the whole process, the whole project became bigger and bigger than what we could ever imagine. She was like, "Sir, you got to get ready to start doing some keynote speaking because there's going to be more than just selling your book." And so now I got to get in front of the mirror and start practicing because I got to know everything that I'm saying so it lines up with everything that we're teaching and we're sharing with inside of the book. So it wasn't like she did all this and just said, "Here you go, jump in." No, it's like, okay, now you really have to gear yourself and get yourself together to go to the next level because now you'll be able to stand in front of 100 people, stand in front of 50 people, stand in front of one person. But now you got to explain to them all the aspects of the 3 Ps of people development without being stumbling or almost to where you knew it like the back of your hand. And so I started going through the book over and over. And really, we started doing editing that way. Uh, I would go through and say, "Well, I don't like the way this part is. Can we change the wording on that? We don't want to use this word lever. We want to use driver and different things like that." So it really became a tandem, almost like a yin yang with us in developing this book and everything.
So, can people schedule you to come out and talk about what you've learned with people management and with inspiring people to get on board with with work culture and with work in general? Because I know, like you said, pay isn't everything. It matters, but sometimes it
Right.
matters less than getting recognized or getting the opportunity to work on new projects or it's growing, like you said, growing the person to the next position. So sometimes that matters more than just the pay because sometimes the pay is not enough to keep someone somewhere just because the culture is so bad.
Exactly. One of the things that I've taught in one of the 1 hour and a half synopsis that I did earlier this year is that there's a motivation fallacy. Uh, Most leaders, they motivate the way that they are motivated. One size fits all leadership. I can tell anyone that it's going to backfire. And then what you find is that people start to disengage. And when they disengage, it's not like big, elaborate where you can see it. It's kind of they quietly disengage.
Right.
I'm big on basketball, and one of the examples I would give managers or anyone that would be in one of our seminars is that anybody from Indiana, they know about Bobby Knight, and Bobby Knight was a great coach. But what they fail to realize is Bobby Knight recruited certain type of players. Well, unfortunately, a lot of times in the workplace, we're not able to recruit certain types of players to a certain degree. You have to take those that you get that come in and you have to start developing and training them and getting them to a certain level. Well, Bobby Knight knew if I got a player that he was able to play in this particular system, I'm gonna get the same outcome. I could almost do it like a cookie cutter, plug this person into my system, and now we're gonna have success. We're gonna win national championships. We're gonna do well in conference play and all of this. Well, it's a little different for that manager that's running the restaurant because usually he's got a 5 mile radius, or even sometimes a little further of the individuals that he's going to be able to have to come work for him. So he has to be real creative in the way that he thinks, in the way that he addresses his team to bring them in, to develop them, and to actually just have the individual there to work. What I used to love to do during the interview is really talk to a person and find out more about them than actually them finding out about me and the job. I want to know what you like, what you don't like. How do you like to be coached? How do you like to be led? But then at the same time, I want to let them know what their expectations are. A lot of times you find managers, they're in a bind, so they're looking for a warm body. So what they do, hey, first person comes to the door, hey, can you stand? Can you move left? Can you move right? Tell you what, you're hired. you know, and they
Yeah.
go from there, and then it's like you have no clue or any knowledge of this kid. You don't know what's going on with him, so you
Right.
have to ask questions, and I guess that's where the psychology background comes in. I start trying to dig and really find out what makes a person tick. And
Right.
so with my framework with the 3 P's of people development, it gives you some things to use to find out what makes a person tick. And even with praise, praise goes more or less and it says recognition and reinforcement. So you know that if you're giving a person praise, you're recognizing their efforts and you kind of reinforcing so you get that same result every time. And then
Right.
it almost becomes like a habit. Forgive me for using basketball analogies, but you take a person like Steph Curry, he shoots the same shot the same way every time. That's why he has success. So it's kind of the same way when you're giving that praise. You want that person, that individual to do the same thing every time. So after so long, this person is ready almost to go to the next stage, which is going to be pay. So you start looking at compensation. But the scariest thing in any restaurant is to just give somebody money. And when I always talk to managers, they say, hey, I want to give such and such a raise. And first thing I ask them is why? Oh, they deserve a raise. So I asked, hey, what are they bringing to the business? And they said, what do you mean? I said, what are they doing? Oh, they come to work on time and they do good on their shift. That's expected. What they
Right.
did, what are they doing to grow the business? And it's like, what do you mean? Do they know anything that you're doing as far as a manager? What can they do to take more off of your plate? And they look at me like, I just want to take care of them because I don't want them to leave. Well, let's look at the value. It needs to be a value exchange. If you're
Right.
paying them more, you need to be getting something back in return. You don't want this one sided because now all it's looking like is give, give, give. And all they're gonna do if you give, all they're gonna do is take, take, take. They need to give you something back in place of that. So a lot of times it would be hard to get managers to even understand that. Your job is not just to sit here and just give them everything they want. They have to be giving you something back that makes the business grow and makes the business move forward. So once you have that in place, you really just start scanning your team and you start looking and seeing who wants more. Because generally in the conversation, that individual is going to come to you. They're going to talk about it. Uh, first conversation may be they may say they want a raise. And hey, tell me what we need to do to get you to get this raise. What are you going to do for the operation in response to us giving you this raise? And then next, once you give them the raise, you start asking other questions. So what's your 5-year plan? And I love asking a 17, 18-year-old kid, what's their 5-year plan? They look at me like, wake up tomorrow and go to school, maybe go to college. And then you start really you start arising, getting that arousal in their mind of what they want to do next in life. And you start explaining to them that, hey, you really can have a career here as a general manager, doing very well, accumulating so many bonuses, moving up the ladder, even moving the multi-unit management district manager or something to that level. And I really relish at the fact when I do see the ones that grasp it and really dig in and they start to grow. But if you're not having those conversations, the people aren't going to grow. They're going to give you just enough what they want to give you, and that's where the position part comes in, because a lot of times a person will leave a job because they're not growing.
Right.
And so if you got somebody that's a high motivated person, and I'll just use a fast food place, and you just got them on the line dropping fries, and this kid is sharp and he understands that, hey, if I drop this fry at this time, I pull it, it's always going to be hot. I never have too many fries in the basket. I don't waste anything. He's helping you with your food cost. My thing is start explaining to them what food cost actually is. What
Right.
affects food cost? What happens when we fry too many fries and we throw those fries away? You're not getting compensated for that. There's no money coming in for that. So that affects your food cost. And so making it to where they understand it. Now you got a person that's engaged because he understands, but now you start seeing if they really want to learn more, and you start showing them more. So the next time when the truck comes in, hey, help me put this truck up. Let me show you how to put this truck up the correct way. And you start giving them those little duties, and the way they react and the way they operate with it, you start understanding that, okay, this is somebody that I may be able to really develop and take them to the next level. And then what happens is you start doing that over and over and over again. And then that's the way you start developing that team. Because one thing I can tell you is, even with praise, generic praise would definitely weaken a standard. I've seen operations where you have a manager, he's going around giving everybody high five. It's almost like off of the Oprah Winfrey show. You get a high five, you get a high five, you get a high five. And now all of a sudden you got a lot of people think they're doing well, but it's generic. Everybody across the board is getting it. It's
Yeah.
like those when you get those participation trophies. You want to reward somebody that excels, not just because, like I said, with the other guy, just because he came to work. That's the
Right.
expectation. You're supposed to
Yes.
come to work and come to work on time. You don't get nothing extra for that. That's
Right.
expected.
Yeah.
So it's funny when things like that happen.
Definitely. There are a lot of people that think they should get something just for showing up.
Mhm.
And we've had people on places where I worked that just didn't show up for a couple of days and didn't call, and then were surprised when they weren't working there anymore. And they were like, "Why? Why? I just took a couple of days off. I just needed a little bit of time." Well, you need to call. You need to tell people that you need some time off or you're not feeling well. I mean, there's an expectation that you communicate. And they're like, "Oh," like they're surprised at that. So I think, in some cases, parents or maybe just the person in general haven't done enough to educate them on what work looks like and what expectations are, or maybe they have and they haven't paid attention. But you're right. I mean, you need to there's certain things you have to do when you come to work. Be on time, like you said, do the job you're paid for, log out when you're supposed to log out, and do the work that you're assigned to do. But those, like you said, that have the interest to learning more and like really delving into the details, those ones you really do need to capitalize on. You really do need to give them the time and attention to grow them. And then they'll stay. So I did put your link to the Amazon page for your book down on the screen there. So if anybody would like to take a snapshot of it or to copy it down, it's also in the comments. So the link anybody wants to use is there for you to click on. So I know that I talked to you before the show, and I told you that at work they have a book series that they're doing on leadership and on employee development and employee engagement and those types of things. And so I think your book would fit perfectly into that model. So I'm really anxious to get it and to delve into the details and really see how we can use those skill sets to really enhance the employee experience and then the manager experience with the employees, because it works both ways. Because sometimes managers are like, oh my goodness, these people are so difficult. This job is like babysitting. I don't want to babysit. So, giving supervisors tools to communicate to their employees, and then at the same turn, educating employees on how to communicate back and how to, give their expectations of, this is what I'd like to do. This is where I'd like to grow. This is, I'm looking for these opportunities. How can you, or how can I plug into those? So I think it's definitely a two-way communication, and it really helps to have both people educated to really have that conversation and make a big difference.
Yeah, you find so many times it's really when it boils down to it, it's usually always a communication issue.
Right.
Most of the problems that I've dealt with in restaurants, it's not that the manager is bad. It's not even so much that the employee is bad. It's that they don't understand how to communicate with each other. It would be so simple for one of them to tell them, I don't like when you talk to me that way, but I definitely would get anything you need me to do done. But they don't do that. One will shut off the other, or they'll do opposite of what the individual told them when all they had to do was talk. And then you have the situations where you have other people involved, where the two with the issue never come together. And anytime I would have issues like that, I would sit both of them in front of me, and I would explain to them. And I tell the manager, well, actually, I would usually tell the employee, I say, hey, look, this is the general manager that works under me. I respect them. I give them full support, and I'm behind them 100%. And so the managers kind of sits there, and they kind of get a little puffy, like, okay, yeah, we're going to really talk to this kid. But then I look at the manager and I said, hey, this is little Billy. Billy came to us, this is the first job he ever had. And I want to make sure that he has all the tools and all the right understanding that he needs to get done. But Billy needs to have as much respect from you, as much respect as you need to give to Billy. And then you start seeing the scale starts to balance. Then, and then we get into what the true issue is, or what's causing the problem. And it's usually very simple. And I almost want to say, now you guys couldn't figure that out yourself, but sometimes it takes that pulling both of them together, away from the rest of the team, or away from the other managers, and really looking at what's going on, and really diving into it and get a true understanding of what's being said and what's being done, and which way we need to go to lead toward progress.
Right. Have you ever gone into a restaurant or something and acted like a customer and just watched the dynamics like they do with some of those reality shows where they're just watching the dynamics of the kitchen staff, wait staff, and then the manager or whoever's like in charge, or the shift manager that night? And how does that go when you kind of watch that dynamic? And then what do you do afterward?
Well, I've done it two ways. One way is if I'm joining a new organization, and for whatever reason, my wife always asks me, why do you believe in going into a group or organization and taking on the worst stores that they have and try to turn them around? And I guess I just love a challenge. But one of the first things I always do is visit pretty much every one of those locations, and just observe and just watch. And then I take the feedback that I may get from the director, some of my peers that tell me what's going on, what they think is wrong with the operation and everything. And I just take a holistic look at it and really just observe. I'm big on observing. And then once I get behind, so you say behind the curtain, and I'm right there in the thick of it, I'm usually going to take 2 to 3 weeks where I can just watch the staff. The first week, everybody's going to be on their P's and Q's because everybody's going to be on their best behavior. The second week, some of the good ones are going to still do what they know is right and they should be doing. Somewhere between that third and fourth week, you start seeing the real person themselves and how they really are every day. And that, hey, this person doesn't come to work on time all the time. This person leaves early a lot of times on their shift. This person clocks this person in sometimes when they're not even here. This person likes to take a break and eats a sandwich around the corner during this time. And they really can't get away from that habit. Now, I've had times where I've done this and a person has, for a month, pretty much turned everything around from what the way they operated before. And now they've done it for 30 days of doing what's right. And so they formed that habit, and now they're doing what they should have been doing even before I got there. And it's funny because everybody's like, "What you did to change it?" I was like, "Nothing. I just come in and I observe. I wouldn't even say much, and I'm just watching." And in their mind, is like, "This guy's watching me." Not necessarily I'm watching the whole operation, but by me being there, the presence, they feel that, hey, I need to do what I'm supposed to do. And you'll find that with many organizations, they have the rules in place, they have the systems. There's just not a person enforcing those rules and those systems. It's basically like the military. If you got somebody that's in whatever branch or whatever service, and they're making sure that, hey, no matter if you're at Fort Ord or if you're at Fort Lewis, this is the way we get in the formation. And this is the way we do this. This is the way we get at parade rest. So it doesn't matter where I go at, they're doing it the same way. And so once you institute that and you have that system, it's simple. Anytime that I've gone in and changed the organization around, it's because I use the tools that's already there. And I laugh because I'm like, it was already there. This program is here. This system here is here. Let's use it. And they'll look at you like, we've never used that. Why? It works. It was created for a reason. And it's like, so you're telling me I need to use this form every single day you come in, use this form, and it's gonna lead you in the right direction. So they'll look at me and say, okay, I'm gonna use it and I'm gonna show you. And by day 21 or day 30, it's like, man, my job is easy. Your job was always meant to be easy, but you weren't using the tools.
Right. Well, it seems like you have the demeanor to really be that peacemaker or that go-between that, that the manager needs and the employee needs. So it sounds like you do a little bit of HR work in the
Oh,
midst of all this, because you have to kind of be counselor, consoler. You kind of have to look at both sides independently, and then have a meeting, a coming together, like you said, to really talk about the issues and really find out, where each person is standing. And that's why maybe the communication has broken down, because there's just a whole misunderstanding in general, because of something somebody might have said that they didn't mean it the way someone heard it, because sometimes it's not what you said, it's how you said it. And
exactly.
they take it, quite literally or the wrong way, and it was never intended that way. And then that puts a gap in between the two people. And then, you've got to bridge that gap some way. So it seems like you're really that person, that calm in the midst of a storm.
Well, look, I always tell my people, I said, to be honest with you, almost 98% of the time when a manager is directing somebody or leading somebody, he's right in the directive, because a lot of times I'm giving them that directive. It's the delivery that gets us in trouble or gets them in trouble. Then I have to come behind them and explain it. And I said, the way let's take, for instance, if I'm telling them that we're exceeding our service time and we need to drop that service time down probably about 30 seconds or whatever.
Mhm.
So I tell them that, I explain that to them. They go back and they're probably in the restaurant screaming, Mr. Marvin said we got to get our times down. You need to get our times down. Da, da, da. And then the people are all antsy, uh, not liking to be yelled at because the average person doesn't want to be talked in that type of demeanor. And now your people are upset and you're not reaching your goal and you're wondering why this person called out the next day and everything. And then a couple other people start calling out and you're telling me, man, we'll never get this time down that you want us to get down because I told them about it. And then I sit down at the table, explain to me what you told them. When I told them that Mr. Morgan said, I said, first thing, that's one thing you messed up. And it's like, why? I said, it needs to come from you. It needs to be like it's you. You're supposed to be my voice, but don't use my name. Use it to where it's coming from you. Because you know what happens? It's like what? They respect Mr. Morgan, but they don't respect you. So if they respect you, they're gonna accept it from you. And it's like, okay. And I said, tell me how you told them. Well, I was yelling. You were yelling. Well, I mean, I was talking loud to such and such. That's like that's what the problem is. I said, that's what I
Right.
want you to do. So tomorrow when you come in, get all your management team together. You guys have a quick 5-10 minute huddle. Explain to them this is what we're looking for. We want you to bring it down, but we want you to bring it down organically. I don't want you pulling cards. I don't want you getting people to back up. I want you to do it organically. Make sure your team has everything they need to be successful. That they got every item that they're going to need to make every sandwich, every meal, everything that we're sending out the door. Make sure all your cups, all your utensils, everything you need is stocked up to be successful. And then talk to your managers, explain to them that, hey, at this time, this is when we're the busiest. So at this time, we need everybody fully focused. At this time, we're going to get a little slack time break. We kind of bring it down some, but then when we go into dinner, it's going to pick up again. And I said, coach them that way. And a lot of them, they would take that information, they will go with it, and they can see the change. Now I say every day, tighten it up a little more, a little more, a little more. Then the next thing you know, you're exceeding your goal or definitely hitting your goal. But in their mind, they think, hey, a good manager is going to go in and going to be almost like a drill sergeant. But even
Right.
the best drill sergeant is very meticulous in what he does to motivate and to really get the best out of their soldiers. It's not just screaming at a person. The screaming
No.
part is to break you down to get you to where you actually listen. So now you fully focus on this person. Well, you got to turn your screaming into something else that gets them to focus. It may
Yeah.
be playing a game, it may be something laughter wise or anything to really to get them drawn in to where they're locked in to whatever you're saying. And once you get that buy-in and they're locked in, the goal is going to be very easy to accomplish.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, getting loud when you need to is okay, but staying loud isn't the right answer because people don't respond well to that. They start tuning you out and start wanting to be somewhere else and do something else.
Exactly.
So if you could speak directly to someone listening tonight who dreams of writing a book or who dreams of moving up in management or who dreams of joining the army or just pursuing education, what would you tell them?
What I would tell a person is generally what I usually ask any kid that comes to work for me. I ask them, what do you like to do? For me, going into food service, I was given options from my recruiter. Once I made a decision that, hey, I'm going to the Army to get the Army College Fund so I can continue to go to school. The questions I asked my recruiters was, look, hey, I want a job, but I want a job where I'm not in the woods. I'm not really wanting to go off and actually fight. If I could find something where I don't have to have a rifle in my hand every time. And he told me, he said, well, son, this is what you may want to do. You may want to go into supply. You'll be working like in a warehouse environment. You'll be making sure all the soldiers got everything they want. He said, or you may want to go in and be a food service specialist. He didn't even call it a cook. I said, food service specialist, what they do? He said, well, I can tell you this. Once you get out, you can get out and you can become a chef. You can oversee distribution center. You can become a restaurant manager. You can become a site manager. You can be a director of operations. And he named like a ton of things. And he said, one thing I can assure you, when you get out the Army and they see that you served in the Army, that they'll be quick to hire you in any position, management wise, in any restaurant. And true to form, he was very truthful and honest. And when I got out, one of the first jobs I ever got was assistant manager at Western Sizzling Restaurant. Excuse me, when they were still open here in Louisiana. Uh, Definitely probably wouldn't have got that position any other way if I didn't have that background. So I would tell a kid, if it's something you like, anything in the civilian world is in the military. I had guys that were stationed with me that their main job was boxing because they were a good boxer and they joined our post boxing team. I had individuals that were supposed to have been in the dining hall cooking with me, but they were in the band because they could play an instrument well. So they were part of our post band. And so I always mention to individuals the last unit I served with when I was in the regular army was 7th PSC, Personnel Service Company. And it was a co-ed company. And they actually would go out to the field and would do all the different service records for everyone that was enlisted. Now, my first first group that I was 14th Engineer Battalion, and I'll never forget. I told my recruiter that I didn't want to go to be in the woods all the time. First week I got there, we were going on a 2-week maneuver in California, in Folsom, California. And I was like, this is not what I signed up for.
You're
But
like,
when they,
darn, recruiter lying to me again.
I always tell everybody, I said he told the truth on everything, but I told him I didn't want to go to the woods. And I said the first week I got there, didn't even make it a whole week. Here we are in the woods for 2 weeks. I said, there's no restroom out here. You have to do what you got to do out there. And they were cracking up laughing at me. Now, as far as writing the book, uh, my situation is definitely different. Uh, I was blessed with someone that had a true understanding how to put it together, or at least had the understanding to get there and research and put it together. I would definitely tell someone, find someone that has done it already and that can coach them along. I know in a lot of situations, people are asking, they want to get paid for putting together a book, and it can cost and it can add up. I definitely see it, but more so, don't give up on it. If you truly have a desire to write a book, I would say sit down and do it, and give yourself a timeline. Uh, let's say right now is June going into July. Give yourself a timeline and say, hey, in July, I want to write this section of this chapter. Then go to August, do another section or chapter, and just to give yourself timelines to really plan it out how you want to do it. In the very beginning, just give yourself a rough sketch of how you want it situated and everything, and then just go back to that plan and just don't deviate from it. Just make sure that, hey, I'm gonna allot myself 10 hours a month where I'm just really just working on my book, and then go back and then go do it again the next month. And like I said, just never give up on it.
That's very good advice, because a step forward is a step forward. It's still progress. No matter how small the step forward is, it's still forward. So, one last thing before we go, because I know we've got about 2 minutes. Is there anything I didn't ask you about, or anything that you wanted to tell the audience that before we get off the air? So, if there's something else coming out for you, a new book or anything else, is there anything else you
Well,
want to give us any
this is
information on?
this is the book right here. If anyone mentions to me about the book or go online, you can find us at GMG Management Group on Instagram, or you can email us at our website. If you mention this book, I'll get a copy to them at $9.99 sent directly to them and everything.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
I'll make sure I have a link where they can go in and get us their information, and we'll send that book to them.
Oh, that'd be great. I think it's, I'm really excited to get it and to dive into it because I really think it'll help me in what I do. And I think it'll also be a good book for our book club to read to and really get in front of managers. So I really appreciate the conversation tonight. I really enjoyed having you on. And he was a last minute schedule. Marvin just decided he would just take my open spot. And so I really appreciate him jumping on and really being available to come on tonight. So thank you so much for what you're doing for the food industry and what you're doing for veterans and their families through your regular job and then through all the other management and other things you're delving into. So thank you so much for being a guest tonight.
Thank you, Tara.
You're welcome. Well, this is Tracer Round signing off.
Hi, I'm Beaker with Military Broadcast Radio TV. We're your virtual MWR, bringing veterans radio, podcasts, gaming, animation, 3D printing, and a community that never leaves you behind. Download our Roku or mobile app today.
Wisdom to share if you listen this week, so pull up a chair and stay for a spell. We're heading down a trail where good stories dwell.